Okay, so good evening all. Thanks for making your time to join this demo session. My name is Ravi Kumar and I'll be leading this Azure administration training. And here's my brief introduction. So I have 13 years plus experience in IT industry where I do consulting, implementing and administration of Microsoft and VMware product. In cloud services, I take care of Azure Active Directory administration, Azure administration and migration to Azure services, Office 365 implementation and migrating to Office 365 services. And also I do take care of on-prem, wherein on the virtualization on VMware and Microsoft Hyper-V. And also I deal with Microsoft services like the Windows Server operating system and any roles running on top of it like Active Directory and yeah, so on. Okay, so this course is about AZ-104, which is Azure administration, right? So which is Azure administration, where we'll be covering the AZ-104 certification content, plus wherein we will be covering more like the Azure fundamentals and also the real-time scenarios where we'll be working on this entire thing. Okay. Anyways, like I'm just updating this content, so I'll be sharing in the upcoming class. That's fine. So, but still, the core contents are the same, what we are going to cover up, and anything if required based on your requirement, which is related to Azure admin, where you want to add up something, we can do that as well. Okay, so this training runs almost like 80 to 90% practical oriented. So we will discuss about the theory concept of the services, and we will see how we will be deploying the services, and we will understand, and whatever we do it in a real time. And also like I'll be helping to create your accounts where you can do your hands-on lab as well. So whatever you do in your production is the same what you will do it for this training as well. Okay. And there are a couple of real-time scenarios wherein we will be learning over here. Okay. Yeah. So we'll be understanding about the cloud and Azure, types of cloud services, benefits of cloud computing, and what are the ways you manage your Azure in the module one. And we'll be understanding the Azure subscription, the types of subscription, how to create the subscription, how do you manage, and what is Azure Resource Manager, how do you create and manage your resources in Azure, and how about others? Can you hear my voice? Am I audible? I should be. Yeah. So Chandra, right? So Chandra, I see there is some issue with your audio, right? I don't think so. Your audio is connected, right? Your audio is not connected. Please check your audio settings. Okay, cool. All right. Okay. In more, in like we'll be understanding about the Azure subscription, how to create and how to manage, and also we'll be understanding about the compute workload, like how do you create your virtual machine in Azure, and what is Azure Resource Manager template as an overview we'll be understanding. And also we'll be understanding about the costing perspective, the Azure calculator, right? So whenever you get any new requirement or to upgrade any existing one, so if you want to understand what will be the charges, right? So that is our main thing. So we'll be understanding how to deal with the estimation using the Azure calculator. Also, we'll be covering on the storage part, like if you want to store some data in the cloud, right? So the Azure storage service is the one what we are going to use. So how to create the Azure storage service and how do you manage your data and what are the ways you can keep your data in a VM or directly in a storage, right? So we'll try to understand that concept as well. And also we'll be looking into the networking, right? So networking is one of the core component in the cloud. What is virtual network in Azure? How to create the virtual network? And when you have more than one network, how do you connect them to allow your traffic flow? And also like how do you extend your on-prem to Azure with the VPN? And also we'll be understanding a Azure load balancer where we'll be looking like hosting a simple web application, like how it will be managed to the load balancing solution. And also we'll be understanding about the network security group, like how do you control your traffic flow between your Azure network using the network security group. So with this, we'll be covering the core components, right? So we'll be covering the core components like compute, storage, network, and also we'll see what all are the day-to-day activities with respect to the Azure admin you'll be performing with respect to your compute, storage, network, right? So like managing the disk to your VM and the vertical scaling of your virtual machine and modifying your network properties of your virtual machine, right? And also, how do you deal with the snapshot as well as the virtual machine image part? And also, we'll be seeing like what is high availability services, right? So when you want to host your application where you are looking for high availability, right? So we'll see what are all the options available in Azure. And also, we'll be understanding the virtual machine skill set. So whenever there is a requirement where you want to do an horizontal scaling, right? So how do you automate? We'll be seeing on the Azure skill sets. And PaaS, wherein we'll be covering two services, which is the app service and other one is the SQL service. And also the identity and governance, wherein we'll be covering on Azure Active Directory, how do you manage your users group in cloud, and what is Azure AD, what is Azure AD premium features and licensing part. And also we will understand like how do you integrate your on-prem Active Directory with Azure AD using the Azure AD Connect, right? So we'll be seeing deploying the Active Directory, deploying the AD Connect, and integrating to your Azure AD. We'll be seeing it everything in a real time. And also we'll be understanding the recovery services like how do you take a backup for your on-premises workload, how do you take a backup of your Azure workload using the Azure recovery services. And also we'll be covering the monitoring and troubleshooting, right? So this covers more like AZ900 plus your AZ104 plus the real-time, the hands-on scenarios where it will be covered. So apart from this, anything you want to add up, so you can let us know. We can add the add it up as well. Okay. So this is about the contents, what we will be driving in this entire training. Any questions, any doubts on this? Okay. If at all, if I'm going fast, you can ask me to slow down, or if you have any questions, anytime you can put it on the chat box, or you can unmute yourself and you can ask me. Any questions so far? All right. So quickly, I'll move to the next slide. So now, if you have a question like saying that, okay, is it a right content where to join, like where to start with AC104, or should I learn before or after, right? Okay. So yes. So let's understand the learning part in Microsoft Cloud. See, there are basically two different tracks. Okay, one is the development and the other one is the administration. So whatever we are covering in a 104 is the administration part. Okay, and if at all, if you're looking on development, that is a different content. Okay, okay. So if you want to start your cloud journey, AZ900 is the course content where you can which talks about the Azure fundamentals. But again, this is not a mandatory certification. This is just for your understanding on the basic concept. What is cloud? What are the types of Azure services? So on. Okay. Anyways, with our course, wherein we'll be covering this as well, right? So need not to worry. But certification is optional. It's not a mandate. So 103 was earlier name very long back. It's called like 2 or 3 years back. So it's now 104, which is the Azure administration, right? So this is what where we'll be learning. So this in this course, whatever we discussed so far, which talks completely on your building and managing your infrastructure in the cloud, right? That is what. And if at all, if you're looking on a developing solution in Microsoft, right? So the course content will be 204. So which talks about the developing solution for Microsoft Azure. So this is a completely different part. Okay. And if you're looking for DevOps, Azure DevOps, right? So there is a prerequisite for DevOps. So you should be knowing AZ104 or AZ204 plus AZ400. After any one of this, you can take AZ400. With this, you can learn and you'll be capable to manage Azure DevOps with your expert. Okay. If at all, if you're looking on a architect, right? Azure architect. So AZ104 plus AZ305 is a content which will make you as a Azure solution architect expert. So this is a learning or certification path in Microsoft Azure. Any questions, any doubts on this? All right. I'll move to the next slide. Okay. So now let's take example. I'm a fresher. Okay. Why Azure Admin only? Why Azure Admin only? What are the features can I expect compared to other admin shop? Okay, Chandra, I'm not very clear about your question. So probably you might asking what are all the admin job, like comparing why should I need to go for Azure admin? Is that your question?
So in present market, so AWS admin like GCP admin also there, right? So why I choose Azure admin only? Can you hear me,
Uh,
Ravi?
I got it. I understand. Yeah, yeah, I can hear you. Yeah. So
Yeah,
your question is like, okay, why should I need to go for Azure admin? Like, how will be the market, right? So what will be my job comparing to other vendors? Right? So that,
other
that's
cloud admin also. Yeah, yeah.
exactly, exactly. That's right. See, one thing, no, one thing we should be clear. So you take any cloud, Azure, AWS, Google. The concepts are same, and backend things are same. But management wise, the costing wise will vary. That's it. Apart from that, whatever the Azure will provide you, the AWS and Google will also provide, the vice versa. Okay. But when you talk about the market share, right? So AWS, Azure is having very good market, right? And also Google is also picking up. Okay. And if you're good with one cloud, yes, you can manage other cloud. Only thing here and there you have to learn about how do you manage. That's it. But again, when it comes to Azure, no, wherein you get a lot of things. So like if you have an Office 365, right? So Azure will work very closer with that, and also like the applications, whatever you post in Azure, right? So with the Azure AD, which is nothing but the Entra ID nowadays, it's called, right? So it's very flexible in the sense like most of the organization will use the Azure Active Directory for their identity access management platform, right? So which gives you more feasibility comparing to your AWS and other stuff. But again, so when we see the competition in the market, right? So if one guy is introducing some, the other guy will also introduce the same. Okay. But when you talk about the market share, AWS and Azure is having very good in the market with respect to job as well. Hope I have answered your question. But still, even that's my choice wherein I can go with AWS or Azure. That's my interest. But anyways, we always think like what will be the market, right? So I just don't want to go with something which is not having much job in the market. But Azure is also having very good in the jobs in the very good in the market. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. All right. So now let's take example. We have different audience, right? So in this call as well, wherein you might like you may be an fresher or you have some IT experience with any domain like network, storage, compute, or virtualization, or any other application end, or you have experience with non-IT, right? So now you want to start your career as a Azure admin, right? Can I do that? Yes, you can do it, right? As a fresher, as an experience with different technology, yes, you can start your career as your Azure admin. But again, there is some prerequisite where you should be knowing. Okay. Since everything is managed in the cloud, so this works in a virtualization platform wherein we will not be touching the core parts, right? So that's the reason, as I told you, right? So as a fresher, also you can start up. Okay. So as a Azure admin, you should have some knowledge or experience on managing the operating system, right? Like you should have some management on Windows or Linux management, like basic administration. If not, also that's fine. You can start learning along with the course or along with the profile. But here we don't deal anything inside the OS, right? So, but still some troubleshooting and other stuff where you should have some knowledge. And also you should be knowing about the virtualization. So whatever the services we manage in cloud, it's a virtualized compute, storage, network, whatever. But here there is no required to have a core level on the hypervisor or on the virtualization. So wherein we don't touch any virtualization platform here that is managed by the uh, Microsoft or the vendor, right? But still, if you have an idea, right? So if I create a virtual machine, how it will be sitting on a backend with respect to the hardware connection, right? So that if you have an idea, that helps you a lot. Cloud infrastructure, anyways, we'll be learning. So some basics about the storage, like the hardware, like what is magnetic disk drive, SSD drives, and what are the storage concept or the storage hardwares will be used, like SAN, NAS, DAS. This kind of basic knowledge, if you know, that will be good. And also networking, yes, networking is very much required. So the basics of networking. So here you're not configuring any routers, switches, or something. Right? So you should be knowing what is IP addressing, types of IPs, class of IP address, what is public IP, private IP, what is firewall, what it does, right? So what is load balancing, what it does, right? So this kind of things you should be knowing. And also about the subnetting, like if you say something /16/18, how do you identify the network, and what is the host IP address, right? So this kind of basics of networking you should be knowing. Okay, yeah. So virtualization you should be knowing, like what is virtual machine, virtual network, virtual storage, right? So some idea if you learn on Google, that's fine. I have some things I'll share with you. You can go through, and also some terminologies or the some protocols you should be knowing, like DNS, what is DNS, what is VPN, what is firewall, what is encryption, and how it works, or like what it is, like how it will be used in real time. Those kind of ideas you should be knowing, right? And also about the Active Directory or the LDAP, right? And also you should be knowing about the resiliency, disaster recovery, backup and restore, why you require backup, why, when you are going to restore, what is disaster recovery, how that will help you in your environment, right? So these are the prerequisite, right? So still there are more, in the sense like the main thing, what is required, where you want to have some idea, right? So that will help. Okay. So any questions on the prerequisites part? Okay. So next question, right? So there was a previous question asked like, why Azure? Why can't I go with other cloud, right? So how Azure will help you to make my career for a long time. So now, once you become a cloud admin, right? So either Azure, AWS, or GCP, whatever. So what will be the cloud admin role? So this is a primary thing wherein you should be knowing like what you'll be doing on your day-to-day. So as a cloud administrator, where you're going to manage the cloud services, which you are going to spend like compute, storage, network capabilities with a complete full IT lifecycle model. In the sense, now I want to host an app, right? So the application developer want to host an app. So now he will put a request to you, right? So you are Azure admin, you take up the request. And what you're going to do, you are going to create the services like compute, storage, network, whatever, right? And as and when you require, as and when there is a requirement to upgrade, downgrade, right, update or decommission, right? So wherein the full IT lifecycle model, wherein you will be managing. So this is one of the task of a cloud admin. You will be taking the end user request for a new application and make the recommendation on the services for optimal performance and scaling, as well as provisioning, capacity monitoring, adjust as appropriate. Means, so now if one of your application team or in your organization, they want to host some application, right? So wherein they'll come to you and they'll ask, hey, I want an Windows server with 2 CPU, 8 GB RAM, and some amount of hard disk. I want this to be in this location to host my application. So wherein you will take the end user request and you will be deploying the services. So before you deploy something, you will try to understand what is his requirement, what is his usage, and whatever he is requesting, is it a right configuration, something to be increased, decreased, right? So you will judge that. Accordingly, you will recommend and you'll be making help them to host the services. And whatever the services is hosting in the cloud, where you'll be monitoring it, the performance as and when it's required to upgrade, update, right? So you'll be doing that. And also sometime you'll be working with third-party vendor as well, right? So let's take example, some application is hosted like SAP, Oracle, or anything, right? So in your platform, if the third-party application is hosted, right? So if any issues, wherein you will be trying to troubleshoot as a part of Azure Admin on infra level, something which has to be troubleshooted beyond your scope from the vendor like Microsoft, where you'll be interacting with them. And sometime wherein you want to interact with the vendor like SAP vendor, which is hosted in your, like which you are consuming hosted on the Azure platform where you are managing it. right? So where you'll be working with the vendors to make sure that whatever the application is hosted in your environment, it's up and running and serving your requirement. Okay. So that is where you'll be coordinating with the vendors. Okay. And now Azure, right? So what are the ways you can manage your Azure, right? So there are two main ways where you'll be managing it. One is through the graphical user interface using the Azure portal through the web browser, so on. And also you can manage using the command line utility like PowerShell or the Azure CLI. Okay. So this is how wherein you'll be managing your infrastructure. So as a successful cloud administrator, where you'll be managing the even the compute like Windows, Linux running on your cloud, and the compute network storage where you'll be managing that. Nowadays, we see a lot of applications are available as a PaaS where you'll be managing that as well. When it comes to PaaS application, wherein you will not be in depth managing it. In the sense, there is a SQL database which is available as a PaaS. So this is also one of the example in cloud. So as a admin, where you will be working to create and manage and provision the services, that's it. So managing the SQL database is the database admin job, like creating the tables, integrating the applications. That is not in our scope. Just giving an idea. Okay. So this will be a cloud administrator role, and nowadays you see they'll be asking bit more plus DevOps content, right? So a lot of things people are asking where a single person should be able to manage multiple things where they can save the cost. That's how the job market is also there in today's. Okay. Yeah. Any questions so far on the cloud admin role? No questions. All going good. Okay. All right. No worries. So one last slide I'll cover. So when you talk about the certification, so whatever we cover in this training, wherein it is focusing on AZ 104 certification, right? So in the certification where you'll be getting questions about the subscription, how do you manage your resources, and how do you implement and manage the storage, virtual machine networks, and the identity governance, right? So certification will not be um, practical; it will be completely theory, but it will be a scenario based. Okay. So after this course content, wherein we'll be helping to prepare your resume, right? And also we will help you to clear your certification in the sense like guiding how you can prepare yourself to get certified with AZ 104. Yeah. Anything else, then we can talk about that. Okay, the training runs in this way. So whatever the contents I have been showed here, right? So we'll go through each and every topic, right? So we will understand the theory concept and whatever the materials I'm showing up here. So that will be shared. So you can refer that as well. Okay. So we will go through the theory concept. We will understand about the service. Next, what we are going to do is we are going to deploy the service in the cloud. So it works in this way. Right? So here you can see I'm logging into the Azure portal. So this is your real-time Azure portal, right? So it's not a simulation. Okay. So first thing we will understand the theory concept. Like when you take a virtual machine, we will understand what is Azure VM and what are the things we'll be considering before deploying a VM, right? So those theory part will be covered. And next thing we will come to this Azure portal and we will deploy the resource, right? So this is how I'll be demonstrating the training. And on your end, wherein I'll be helping you to create your accounts where you can do your lab as well, right? So that's why I told you it will be 80 to 90% completely practical oriented. Okay. So now I just show you like in real time wherein you get a requirement to deploy a virtual machine to host an application, right? So how you're going to do. So you log into your Azure portal one way, right? Other way is you can use a command line. When you're doing a bulk operation, you'll be using a command line. So here I'll say this is my VM lab. Let's deploy the resource group. So we will be covering each and everything when we go to the training, right? So when we are running the training module. Okay. So now I'm deploying the virtual machine. So first we will understand what is virtual machine in a theory part. Then we'll come here. Then we'll be deploying the virtual machine. Right. So while deploying the virtual machine, wherein we will be going through each and every points here, then we will be covering that. Right. So I'll say this is my app server. I want to deploy in East US. So we will be going through each and every points here, and I'll be explaining you that. Okay. For now, I'll just directly deploy this machine. Okay. So remaining settings, I'll go with the default settings for now. But when we are in the training wherein we will be covering each and everything, why this option we are selecting, what it does, then we will be deploying the services, right? So like this, there are some scenario based wherein we will be covering that as well. Okay. Yeah. Any questions, any doubts so far? So any questions on the training content? So no questions? Okay, so now whatever you can see, right? So this is deploying in real time. So in your production, if you're deploying any services, the same portal, same thing will be doing, right? So that's why I said you whatever we do, it's a real time labs. Okay. If you have any questions, any doubts, please let me know. If you don't have any questions, okay. See, course duration will be 30 plus hours, right? So whatever the content, right? So it's practical oriented, it depends upon. So minimum 30 hours. And about the fee structure where you can reach our coordinator, she will be helping you on that. Okay, and batch timings also she'll be coordinating with you. So we'll plan it accordingly. Okay. Job assistance, nobody. Like if something is there, definitely we can tell you. But still, job part, we are not assuring you anything on that. Okay, if some reference comes up, then definitely we'll let you know. But still, not committing on that. Any other questions? Will you? Okay. Right. Fine, all right then. So if you don't have any questions, we'll wind up now. So anytime if you have any doubt, any question, you can reach to our administrator, and if you want to talk to me, we can have a call on that. Okay. Okay. Sure. All right, guys. Thank you. Thanks for your time. I appreciate that. Have a great day. We'll catch up soon. See you then. Bye bye.